Maybe we should go into kind of how the Magpie Salute kind of started a little bit, because you're playing with people from your own solo band, but also people from the Black Hole, like Marc.
Yep.
Getting those people together, for instance with Marc, what was that like? What was kind of trying to reconnect with him like?
Well, you know, Marc and I mean, I was, you know, as I tour and get older and sort of think about these things, I was reflecting on the fact that you know, being in a band and you live on a bus with someone, and living on a bus with people for years, like 6, 7 years. Sure. You know, you see them every day. You see them in the studio. You see them on tour, and just thinking about, like, that's intimate. There's an intimacy to that. You know, you see someone waking up. You see someone going to sleep. You learn people's quirks and who they are. But Marc and I never really had a relationship outside of music. You know, just because of the dynamic of that band, which was incredibly negative. And so,
how come? Why was it negative? Because you were doing well.
Well, because of ego and drugs, and you know, but pretty much ego.
Okay.
You know, and so, you know, to have this time, like this frame of time with someone, and not to really know them, I thought was odd. And then, but when we would play on stage, it would, there was just something about it. No one could really, I didn't understand it, but it was just that way. And I thought, wow, it's kind of weird to have this connection through this music, and then outside not sort of have this full circle, you know, relationship. So I was doing this show in Woodstock, New York, and it was just over 3 days. And it was recorded in front of a live audience, and I'd done one before, and it was cool, but I was like, man, I kind of want to bring some guests in, and I want to call Marc Ford and just see if he wants to come do this. And so we reached out to him, and his guy said, you know, he's like, I'm there, I don't care what it is, I'll come and play, you know. And that was really cool, you know. I mean, and that took an openness for him too, you know, like we build, I kind of feel like it's funny, I mean, I have young boys, and you can see, like, this kid will come up and be like, hey, you want to be friends? It's like, yeah, all right. And that's pretty much it. And then they're just friends for a long time, you know. But as we get older, we start setting up boundaries, you know. And it's harder to have that connection, that sort of free flow connection with people, because we have our own way of being things. So, so it was interesting, you know, like, to drop all those boundaries and just be like, yeah, you know what, I'll come, and, you know, cool. So he said he was going to come, and then I reached out to Eddie Harsh, and I'm like, you want to come down and play with me and Marc? He's like, yeah, I'm coming, you know. And we hadn't played with those guys in 10 years. I hadn't. And so, you know, I thought it was really cool to bring them into what I was doing and into that context. And then I added some singers, because I thought, oh, this would be fun. We can do a lot of stuff. You know, we could do these songs and that songs. And then, so that was really just, it was going to be those 3 shows, and that was it, you know. And then after the last show, Ed came up to me and was like, hey, man, this was amazing. You know, this was so much fun. I think we should do this again. We should really try. And I was like, yeah, that would be cool. And then I went and finished my own tour, you know. And then, but I thought about what Eddie had said, and I thought of ways to put it together. Like, what would we call it? What would we do? What kind of songs would we do? Like, how would this whole thing work, you know? You know, and we talked about putting a show up for sale in New York. And we put up a show, and it sold out, and 3 more sold out like that. And so I'm like, okay, well, there's something there. There's some interest there, you know. And then right after that, Ed passed away, you know. But his excitement and enthusiasm for everything just was more like, you know, Ed wouldn't, you know, he really wanted this thing to happen. So we just kept going. We did those shows, and then we're like, well, let's book a tour. This was fucking great, you know. And so we booked a tour. And then I was like, oh, we made that record last summer. Let's put that out, you know, to tour on. It was more, that's what I like about it. It was organic. It was just like, let's try this and let's try that. And that's how it's always been, creatively. You know what I mean? Like, why not try something, you know?
I have one question about this, and you might not like the question, but you don't have to answer it if you don't. But seeing that interest for those shows, so seeing that interest, isn't it then, because you're playing with a lot of old band members, isn't it a shame in a way that your brother, that rift exists between the two of you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame for a lot of reasons, but, people make their choices and it is what it is. I mean, yeah, it's a shame. Would I rather have a good relationship with my brother and make music? Yeah, that would be great. Or I would have rather done that a few years ago. But now I'm happier doing this because, I think he brings a whole mess of things around. And with this, we are able to kind of say, like, apart from the music, the most important thing for us is to not fall down that road.
Right.
Everyone in a bands are sensitive and they can be bitchy, and touring is hard. It can be boring. People are exhausted. They're, musicians or artists in general have a sensitivity to them. And so that being said, I think that's a situation where having to go through the act of touring can be really difficult and emotionally taxing, and then therefore can lead to some sort of relationship turmoil, as a band. That being said, with this band, we were like, look, we're not going to do that. We're not going to go in the back lounge of the bus and bitch about each other, and we're not going to talk shit, and we're not going to, take things personally. Everyone's got a life, everyone has families, everyone has things that they're dealing with, and we need to give everyone space to be who they are, first of all, and then secondly, we need to be able to communicate. And if you sense something is coming your way, talk about it. And so that, because we were all in the Black Crowes, or most of us, and it's a tornado. And you go into this tornado and you get spit out, or we were just kind of like trying to stay in the eye, but
Right. But then going back to Marc, because you mentioned the chemistry you had on stage, and then musically, and this is just one example, but there are many on the album, but hand in hand, the way the guitars kind of interlink, and so what is it like at that moment in the studio, or as you're developing that song?
Well, I mean, I had that song, it was just this thing I was messing around with, whatever, and it's just one of those things, it's like, I had this cool thing. I'm like, yeah, what about this? We're just developing songs in the studio. We recorded 28 songs, and because we wanted to make a double album, and so, or at least 2 records worth of stuff. And so it was just, you plop a mic in between Marc and I. We're just up there, and I show him the part, and he comes up with his thing, and then I'm like, John, will you sing something? He's like, yeah, and he's sitting on the sofa with a mic, and and that was it. It was one take.
Okay. It's my favorite one. Of the
and
album.
it happens, and that happened, and it was cool, and John was just making up lyrics, and I was like, all right, cool, man. And that's, Marc was approaching it more from like a lead belly standpoint of what he's doing over what I'm doing, but that's just what it is. It's like we drink from this well, we pull from the same palate, but our approach is slightly different enough to where it works really well with one another.
And I suppose ultimately that's why you are in a band. That's why you do make music.
Exactly.
Rich, thank you very much for your time.
Yep, thank you.